Welcome to Rising Stars, where Miriam Knight, publisher of New Consciousness Review, interviews exciting new voices in the world of progressive and transformational books, films, and ideas, who offer intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us as we celebrate the conscious awakening and explore many expressions of consciousness in action.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Miriam Knight, and we have three guests with us today: Dennis Linn, Sheila Fabricant Linn, and Matthew Linn. They work together as a team integrating physical, emotional, and spiritual wholeness. They have taught courses on processes for healing around the world. They have written 23 books, including 2 books for children and those who care for them. And those books have sold over 1 million copies in English and have been translated into more than 20 languages. Dennis and Sheila live in Colorado with their son John, and Matt lives in a Jesuit community in Minnesota. Their latest book that we're going to discuss today is called The Gifts of Near-Death Experiences. You don't have to die to experience your true home. Welcome, Linn's all.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm delighted that we could get you all together in one virtual room. I was so delighted to read your book because it gave me a wonderful overview of the various experiences that people have had around near-death experiences. And I was wondering, what first drew you all to the study of NDEs?
Well, this is Dennis here. And I think my story starts at birth, actually. We have a 19-year-old son, John. And before he was born, I did some birth regression work. And what I discovered was that I had known I was a breech birth. And in the regression, I discovered I did not want to be born. And part of me kept going back into the light from which I came. And I later interviewed my parents about the whole thing, and what I learned was my mom always said I was born on Thanksgiving Day at 10 in the evening. My dad said that they told him that I almost died. And when I finally got my birth certificate, I realized I was born the next day at 2 a.m. So I think I may have had a near-death experience at birth, and I think that set my whole life in a certain line that we can talk about. But I think from birth.
More immediately, we'd always been interested in near-death experiences, and we refer to them here and there in others of our books. But this would be about 3 years ago now. We had a friend here. Her name is Fran. She's remarkable. She's one of the most courageous people that we know. And she speaks up publicly about a subject that people literally get killed for speaking up about. And we asked her one day, Fran, where do you get your courage? And she said, it's from reading about near-death experiences. I've done it every day for 10 years as my morning meditation, and I'm not afraid to die. And she held up the book that she was reading at the time. It was Lessons from the Light by Kenneth Ring. We knew of Ken's work, but we had not read that particular book of his. And so we got it, and the point that stood out for us in Lessons from the Light is that Ken describes the near-death experience as what he calls a benign virus, meaning we can catch it and it's good for us. And what he's saying is, if you hang around near-death experiences, if you listen to the stories of people who have had them, if you read about them, there's a kind of an energy or a frequency, and you catch it. and it can have some of the same effect upon you as a listener or a reader as what the near-death experiencer has actually experienced. Now, that was pretty stunning to us, along with the fact that as we looked at the stages of near-death experiences that Ken lays out, they parallel healing processes that we have used in our work all over the world. And we kept using them, and we use them everywhere because we saw that they work. They are universal. They transcend culture. Pretty simple things, and we can give you some examples. But it was as if something we had in some way intuited, or we were onto something that is universal, that anyone can kind of catch, by the way that the processes we had found that are healing, they parallel or they match the stages of near-death experiences. Mm-hmm. And so we said, if this thing is catchy, and we have these processes that match what happens to people in a near-death experience, why don't we make that our next book and help people catch the benign virus?
Very good. Well, there's nothing more universal than death, is there?
Correct, you're right.
I'm curious, you all have really deep roots in, I guess you would call it classical theology. Mm-hmm. How has this study of near-death experiences impacted your own spirituality?
Well, I go way back to working with the Lakota people 50 years ago, and finding that the people who could really grow and get into, you call it classical spirituality, but meeting a God of love, were not people who had been hurt less, but people who, with that love, could start to forgive. And that's what sent me off. How do you begin to do this? That's one of the essentials of the Christian message, any spirituality really, to let go of pain and to find love and to create a world where there's love, where you have peace and justice. How do you start to do that? And then we'd go off to Northern Ireland and places like that and learn from people that were doing it. And as Sheila was saying, it's the processes that are in the near-death experience. So whenever we got into experience, it brought us back into processes. And those processes brought us back into what happens in the near-death experience. But it would happen in just a minute or two, rather than a whole weekend workshop or whatever we were giving.
Mm-hmm. So is it fair to say that you all had quite a sense of recognition, almost an aha experience when you started reading about NDEs?
Well, they've been things that...
Dennis, you have to speak up a bit, please.
This is Dennis. So here's what happens when something really moves us in our life. We start to write a book about it. Like
not all people do, you know.
we don't have an unpublished thought. Our first book was Healing of Memories, because it had really helped me to ground myself, and so we wrote about it. Then you get invitations, to give workshops in different places, and so you use that process. And I think what both Matt and Sheila are trying to say is these processes that really worked in our lives, and so we'd write another book about that or another one, and then we saw how they worked in other countries. They were universal. So in answer to your question, it was like an aha moment. It's like, oh, these things that we have been doing for many, many years in many, many countries seem to be capsulized in the experience of a near-death experience. Mm-hmm. So it was like an aha moment. And it's, again, I really want to emphasize it's all across the world. It happens to Muslims and to Hindus. And, we have worked with people in all different cultures, and it is so universal. And it really, to me, it is so comforting in this time where, we can focus in the politics or something on hate of somebody in Iran or Iraq, and then you read their near-death experience, and they're right back to where we are. The Muslims, the it's just so universal, and it's so wonderful and comforting.
I seem to be reading a lot about near-death experiences. Do you think they're happening more, or people are empowered to write about them more? How often do you think they occur?
The statistics are 4 to 15% of people in the world have these experiences. I'm not sure they are happening more, but what is different is that, well, they may be happening more in light of what I'm about to say, that modern resuscitation techniques are much more improved. Mm-hmm. So people who might not have come back now do. So I suppose in that sense they may be happening more. But the other part of that is physicians, cardiologists, people who work in emergency rooms and are bringing people back, they are hearing these stories more, and the stories have become credible. So where maybe 20 years ago they'd be sending people to the psych ward, now they're listening. Mm-hmm. And then all of this literature that's coming out about it, including people who have studied them very carefully. There are really prominent researchers. One of them is Ken Ring, another would be Pim Van Lommel, Jeffrey Long. Over these years, near-death experiences have been studied with very careful research protocols. So the whole thing has become far more credible in the scientific world. I suppose they may be happening more, but they're also being listened to and taken seriously far
mm-hmm.
more.
Right.
The three of us are really introverts, and it's been a surprise to us. We can go to a town picnic or to a school gathering, and somebody will say, well, what are you doing? And we might mention we're writing something on near-death experiences. And almost to a person, that person will know someone who had a near-death experience, or they themselves have had a near-death experience.
Oh.
So we've moved from being introverts to extroverts. I mean,
very good. Well, listen, that's our break music. We're going to take a quick break. We're speaking with Sheila, Denny, and Matt Linn. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes.
Welcome back. We are speaking about the gifts of near-death experiences with Sheila, Dennis, and Matt Linn. Guys, what is your website?
www.linnministries, all one word, .org.
Linn, Linn, ministries.org. Very good.
Correct. That's it.
Okay. Now, I would like you to go over the elements of a near-death experience, because you were saying that your books, your focus of the moment seemed to be paralleling them.
Well, I could do that.
Maybe we just go over a few at a time and then discuss them.
Okay. Or I can just give you the sequence of them. The first thing that seems to happen is the person has a sense of leaving their body and their pain behind. So they're in this place of peace and often of light and love. And then they sometimes go through a transition. It might be a tunnel, it might be something else, or there's no transition. Often at the end of the tunnel or whatever they're going toward, there's a light. As they reach the light, they often meet people, deceased people mostly, who have been there loving them all along. And often there's a person that takes them on the journey through this place where there's nature that is loving them, all the trees, the lakes, everything that's there. It's an environment of love. And as they go further, they can meet a being of light that is radiating this love, loving them unconditionally. And if they go further into it, sometimes there's a life review where they experience being in the shoes of everybody that they've interacted with. And not just looking at it on television, but experiencing what it's like in the shoes of that other person, what it's like in their own shoes. And then there's the often steps of union, where you become one with this love, one with this light. And then if you have a near-death experience, you get to be sent back. And they're sent back often with a sense of what it is that they're to do, so that they can experience this, bringing this light more into the world, and finding that this experience isn't just something to be lived on the other side, but how is it to be lived here? And that's our interest.
I think one of the most common reports is this feeling of overwhelming love that they really don't want to leave, but it's a sense of recognition of being home that I find so wonderfully fascinating. You talk about the healing that often accompanies a near-death experience. How do you understand that effect?
Well, I think you probably pinpointed it. I think any time you feel loved, you experience healing at some level, because you remember who you are. I think one of the most fascinating things to me in the near-death experience is that when people have a near-death experience, they will experience themselves, for instance, going around mountains. There will be trees, rivers, and here's the thing. They recognize that they were here before. It's familiar to them. They recognize that they were loved, that they are loved, and that they always will be loved. And I think any time that we come in contact with love, we really experience healing. And that's been the basis, the core of our work, is how do you help people, and ourselves included, to experience love, whether it's coming into memories of hurt or whatever. That's been a core of our work, love with the deceased who have passed on.
Do you think that that's the foundation of hands-on healing and other forms of healing?
I want to emphasize what Denny just said, and then maybe we can connect that with your question. Earlier, he mentioned that if we get into a conversation with anyone, really almost anyone about this, there's a kind of a fascination. And I think it's because it triggers a memory near-death experiences trigger a memory that I believe is deep within all of us of where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so a near-death experience is like going home. And we come from a place of infinite love. At some level, all of us know that. And we know at some level who we are before we were hurt, before we were socially conditioned, before any of the things that kind of cramp and twist and distort our identity. Healing is recovering that. It's remembering, as Denny said, remembering who we are. And we can remember that at many levels. We could say, I think, that any form of sickness, including physical sickness, is it's forgetting. Our cells forget how they're supposed to function. Our organs forget. Our psyche forgets. And when we're flooded with love, we remember. Because that is our nature. That is our essence. That is who we are. We are infinite love. So, if someone prays for us, lays hands on us, if we have a near-death experience, if we're in the presence of a highly empathic, loving person, it doesn't matter. Anything that reminds us that we are love is healing.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Now, let's go to the description of the life review, because it has such powerful implications. It sort of replaces karma, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you understand the other person, and you understand your motivations. In that infinite love, you're accepted just the way you are. You know why you did the things and made the mistakes you did and how you were doing the best you could. So that whole part is healed. But you're not just in your own shoes. You're in the shoes of the other person, too. You know why they did everything that they did and their hurt and their pain. And you can let go of that and know that they did the best that they could. We keep running into people whose lives have been changed by that life review. In Mexico, I met a person who was a hitman for the drug lords. He'd go out and shoot whoever they were telling him to shoot. He had a near-death experience. And in the near-death experience, he was inside the shoes of the people that he had shot, feeling their agony as they died. But not just their agony, all the people around them, the children that they left behind that were hungry and starving. After that life review, he left the drug lords, and he started caring for working and giving whatever he had to the orphans that he had left behind that didn't have the food. That's the kind of thing the life review does. It expands your heart. You know you're one with everything. It's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, because really you are. You're all of these people. We're all one when we get into that love. And whatever we do to another, it's happening to us too. So I think that's what fascinates me. And what I've learned from is, with the Lakota people, they could forgive if they could start to get in touch with the person that had hurt them and why that person had done it. There's a whole release that comes when we just get out of our skin and into a bigger love. Then we can let go of the pain because we know we can experience why that all happened.
Can I just add a PS to that?
Please.
The life review also includes our interaction with nature. Mm-hmm. There's a person, Berkeley Mills, and in his life review, he experienced himself as an 8-year-old with much pride, killing a mother bird with a slingshot. Well, in the life review, he is inside of all the baby birds slowly starving to death. And what happens in a life review, we have the opportunity to be inside the air, the water, the plants, the animals, and we experience all the good things that we've done for them, as well as where we've hurt them. I remember Kimberly Clark Sharp, in her life review, the thing that stood out the most was when she was 8 or 9 years old, and she bent down to see a flower growing out of a crack in the sidewalk. And it was that moment that in her whole life that she experienced her unconditional love. So the life review includes everything, all the people we've interacted with, but all the parts of the environment too. There was another Tom Sawyer. In his life review, he experienced himself walking through Seneca Park in California. When he's 8 or 9, he stopped to admire a tree. And in his life review, he was inside the tree, receiving the love and admiration coming from himself as a child towards that tree. Everything counts. And especially the small acts of kindness count.
I think what you describe is probably the best, not definition, but description of a sense of oneness, that we truly are at the most fundamental level connected to all that is.
That's right. That, in your life review, people say, I can experience being an eagle. I can experience being the water running in the stream. Here's one. This is from a Muslim woman named Muhammad. She remembers bullying a child, and as that child walked away, she could feel all the trees feeling the child's terror and sorrow, the rocks feeling it. So you're right. It's the oneness. You're inside of everything, like I think we always are. But it's like we come to our consciousness in the life review. This is who we truly are.
My goodness. Well, we're going to take another break, and then we'll be back with Matt, Sheila, and Dennis Linn. Stay with us. We have lots more to cover.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the Internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network. The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sheila, Matthew, and Dennis Linn about the gifts of near-death experiences. Now, you mentioned the healing power of these experiences. There were a couple of really mind-boggling anecdotes in your book, some of which I had heard before, like Anita Moorjani and Eben Alexander, whose books became bestsellers. But you also talk about like a lad who had cerebral palsy, and then when after his near-death experience, he was able to open his hands. How common is that?
Well,
I don't know about that.
Taking our breath away. You go ahead, Matt.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I don't. First of all, I don't know how common the near-death experiences. I know more. They're having more of them, like Von Lommel in Belgium is saying 1 out of 5 that have cardiac arrest have a near-death experience. How many of them have physical healing? I think we're going to get more reports on that. I
want to go back. I totally agree, because I want to go back to Sheila's description of the recognition or remembrance of one's perfection. That is so healing. And, I kind of apologize because I was taking us off on a tangent. But I wanted you to talk about some of the other extraordinary stories that you tell in your book. For example, the one about the woman who had a near-death experience when she was giving birth and was told about her child being ill but recovering. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was, I forget which country it was. I think she was Swedish. And she was giving birth. She had a near-death experience in which she was told that the baby would be very ill, that the doctors would tell her that it was going to die, but she should not listen, that it would not die, that it would be, I think, in a coma, for
5 months.
I think it was 5 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it would wake up and it would be entirely normal.
In fact, it would be more intelligent. Yes,
that's right. Yes. And that's exactly what happened. The doctors came in, and normally, you would be distraught. A new mother. She was not, and she knew they were wrong. She was very calm and peaceful. She waited. The baby woke up after 5 months, and in fact was highly intelligent and developed. By the time he was 4, he was developed to the age of a child older than himself.
Mm-hmm.
So, these experiences...
That's our phone, and we apologize.
Yeah, that's something in our phone. Let's see if it stops. I'm very sorry for that.
That's okay.
It normally doesn't go on very long. Okay, let's hope that's the end of it.
If it returned, we could...
Yeah, let's
Don't worry.
it's okay now. But I think the point is that these experiences transcend the kinds of limitations that we're used to thinking of, and they show us that really anything is possible. When love comes into a situation, it anything is possible. And we spoke earlier about the healing of hurts. One of the most dramatic aspects of our work has been when we've been in countries where there are long-standing conflicts between Protestants and Catholics in Northern Ireland, between Sandinistas and Contras in Nicaragua, between blacks and whites in South Africa. And what we've seen over and over is that when you introduce love and forgiveness, and people grasp that they've all been hurt in the same way, that war is the enemy, not each other. We've seen unbelievable reconciliation in situations where it was thought impossible. So whether it's at the level of physical healing of somebody with cerebral palsy, whether it's a child who seemingly is a baby who seemingly cannot live, whether it's at the level of these international conflicts that go back hundreds of years and are seemingly irresolvable. When you bring love into any of these, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at the level of the earth as well. You know, you asked us a while ago if there are more near-death experiences now. I don't know exactly if we studied it from year to year what the statistics would be, but the question we then ask is, why? Why is this happening now? And part of it is an awareness that the whole earth is, it's all conscious. And the more that message gets out, and the more we begin to love the earth rather than exploit it, that's our only way out of the global crisis that we're in right now. Mm. So I
think that's been, too, one of the surprises to us in this whole thing is the near-death people. They come back to share, in sharing their experiences. There are trees and rivers and mountains and streams on the other side. It's just like here. And it's
you mean
like
what they experience on the other side looks like here.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and it's a surprise to me because somehow I thought, the other world was something spiritual, as if mountains and trees and horses and dogs and cats aren't spiritual. Mm. But everything that we have here is just a reflection of the other side. And in caring for the environment, we're really making heaven on earth here. It's like it almost seems like that's what the purpose of our lives are, is to remember where we've been, who we are, and to create it here. And we all remember that deep inside of ourselves. We have a memory of that. And it gives us a lot of joy when we care for the earth or we do these things. It gives us joy. It's like we remember who we are.
It's obviously a profoundly powerful experience. And you talk in your book about shared NDEs, where people actually, alongside dying people, share in their experiences. How do you think, can you describe some of these incidents and what your interpretation of them is?
Sure. I think this is one of the reasons that NDEs are being taken more seriously. Before, people thought it was a dying brain that had hallucinations. But I'll give you an example from a nurse that I talked to. She came was wondering what this workshop would be on NDEs, and I told her yes, and I said, "Why are you wondering?" She says, "Because as a nurse, I was involved with taking care of a patient, and her daughter was there, and when she died, we all saw this tunnel of light that went from her through the door, and we saw her soul leave at the same moment that she died." And then she said, "And I had 3 other nurses in the room, and they saw that too. They didn't see her soul leave at that moment, but they saw the tunnel of light." Now there's 5 healthy brains there, and they're seeing the same thing. So this is a reality. And what the experience for all of them was this experience of love, of peace. At the same time, it wasn't just watching light. They experienced that love that this person was going into. Mm. So I think that's why this is coming up more. More people are seeing it. But the other thing is, like you were just saying, this love is needed more than ever. This May was the hottest May on record. This year has been the hottest on record with the global warming. We have to find some way, like Dennis was talking about, of really caring for our world, our environment. And we have to find some way of having a world peace. We have nuclear weapons. We have groups, terrorist groups. Look at Orlando. We have to find a way of becoming one and of finding a bigger love that goes across racial, economic, every kind of boundary. And I think that's why so much of this is happening. That's what we're being called to. And people who come back, that's what they're about. They come back with a sense of how they're to make that difference in the world. That's what they've been sent. All of us have been sent to do this. It's often, though, that we don't find out what it is until we're on the other side. And those who come back, they either come back knowing, or they have like a inner compass that knows it's about love. And they try different things and see which is the one that gets me into this experience where I was with this being of light, where there's so much love that's going forth from that and coming into me and back and forth. And they find their way bit by bit. So perhaps that's one reason it's happening now. We are in crisis times. And what we need is what the near-death experience is giving people.
Yes, when you have experiences that are witnessed by other people, like Anita Moorjani's near-death experience was witnessed by doctors who flew in from around the world because her case was so well documented. It was kind of a watershed. But you had an anecdote about a woman who, when she was on the surgery table for ovarian infections, actually met with her father on the other side, who told her where the location of each infection was. And and she went and told her surgeon. Well, you tell it. I think I'm getting it out of order.
That one's a little different. It's not a shared death experience. It's someone from the other side helping, intervening here. And the story you're talking about, her grandfather was a surgeon. Mm-hmm. And I believe she was on the operating table. And
well, I think she told her surgeon beforehand where to look. And he said that he would have missed one of them.
That's right.
If it hadn't been for that information. And I bring this up in the context of what I think it was Matt who was just saying, that being a testament to the importance of consciousness, the connectedness of everything, the responsibility of everything. When you have people understanding that this is real, they will have to change their behavior. Anyway, that's our last break coming up, and we will be back for our final segment with the Linns talking about near-death experiences.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hello! Join us, Lisa Berry and Michelle Carter, every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the Mindset Makeover, What's Possible. Get ready to become present, clear, and unstuck, and start living fully, led by your heart. While you listen and feel this transformation through vibration of word, sound, and song, you'll open up to what's possible and experience your shift.
Host your show on IOM-FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM-FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Matt, Dennis, and Sheila Linn about the gifts of near-death experiences. Now, the tagline to your book is, "You don't have to die to experience your true home." And this book is not just recounting a lot of near-death experiences. How do you recommend that people actually use them? What was your goal in writing it?
I can tell you.
Did you
go ahead, Sheila?
As we were saying earlier, what inspired us to write this was Ken Ring's concept of the near-death experience as a benign virus, meaning you can catch it. And you can catch it by immersing yourself or exposing yourself to the experiences of those who actually have had NDEs. And so what we tried to do is give many of these kinds of stories, you've picked up on some of them, give them in a way that organize them to parallel the stages of a near-death experience. So, for example, we began with one's experiences of just infinite love, which is typically at the beginning of a near-death experience, the sense of being immersed in love, leaving the pain or whatever is going on in your body, and being immersed in love. So we began with that. That's the first stage. That's also how we begin all of our programs. We begin by asking people to get in touch with positive memories of love, because that sets the stage for healing. Mm-hmm. So the first chapter, we recount some of those stories of the beginning of a near-death experience, and then give people a process for getting in touch with their own memories of love while they're in that kind of a field of what they've just been reading, of how infinite that love really is. Another stage of a near-death experience is the life review. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's
just hang on until it's done. That's fine.
Yeah. There.
Maybe somebody's trying to contact us from the other side.
That's a good idea. That would help us, because the phone company hasn't been able to clear that up.
Yeah.
Another stage of the near-death experience is the life review. And we have a process. So what we've done, for example, in that chapter, is to describe what happens in the life review. And we have a process that we've used for years in every program that we give. It's a process of reflecting at the end of each day on what we were most grateful for during the day, what we're least grateful for during the day. What we realized is that that's like a kind of a daily life review. Mm-hmm. It's each day looking at, in what way was I living the love that I am, and in what way was I not? So it's a way of...
I think someone is underlining what you're saying.
Yeah, right. I hope so. It's a way of doing every day. What we realized is we've been suggesting a process that's like a daily life review. Mm-hmm. Moreover, when you do that process every day, you begin to see a pattern, and that pattern is a source of guidance. In effect, it's a way of tuning in to the purpose of our life. And that, again, is a stage of the near-death experience. So what I'm trying to describe is that we laid out the book to parallel the stages of a near-death experience. We tried to give many stories that exemplify different aspects of it. And then we tried to give people processes, once they're immersed in that energy, to draw out the gift of a near-death experience and begin to live it in a daily basis, and to see it, to tune into it, to watch for it. Mm-hmm. Because all these things are there for us. They're speaking to us all the time. It's just a matter of our attention, of our paying attention.
Yeah. You're talking about how that noise is maybe someone trying to contact us. It reminds me of what I did. But in 2001, we had all this fear of that there were these cells everywhere, and who knows when the next plane would go down. And I had like 100 different flights to take that year. I didn't want to get on any of them. So what I did is I started making out my list of those who are on the other side who love me, writing their names down, taking time to go back to the memory I had of how they loved me here and how that love continues. And it's multiplied a million times more as they get into this infinite love and have a 24/7 that they're radiating at. No time to, they don't have to sleep or anything. It healed my fear of death. That, I think, is one of the qualities that all these people come back with. Probably the most universal one is that they have no fear of death. They know what's on the other side. They're ready for it. And the simple thing of just making out your list of those on the other side who love you and experiencing how that is happening right now, that can heal that and begin to take away that fear of death.
I think one of the greatest diseases of our civilization is the feeling of despair and aloneness. And just having even a little bit of assurance that there are people on the other side who love you unconditionally is probably the most healing takeaway from all of this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You talk about the power of prayer. How does that fit into all of this?
Well, I think we're using it in a very universal way because, again, there's a website that has collected 4,000 of these NDE experiences that come from Muslims, Hindus, Christians, and here's the thing. All of them report the key is love. And to us, prayer is any way that we're in touch with that love within us and that we can communicate it. And, we keep repeating ourselves, but what's so wonderful about this, you discover that all faiths, all religions, all cultures really have this sense that it's love that counts. And that's what, when we do our workshops, we have people get in touch with the love that's in their heart. They turn to the person next to them who may want some emotional healing, the aloneness you're talking about, some issue with forgiveness, or they might want physical healing or whatever. And we just have the people get in touch with that love and let it flow out from their heart into the other person. And we have people in our workshops, sometimes they're Christians, we've had Muslims, we've had Hindus, and it all transforms. People are transformed. What transforms is love, and that's the wonderful thing about the near-death experiences.
How has it changed you all personally?
Well, I have a band around my wrist right now that just simply says, how would I act with love, Mm-hmm. It's like a reminder. It's like a reminder to me that that's all that counts. And so the things I worry about, the finances or whatever it is, it all takes second place in life. And my main question becomes, how am I going to relate today to my 19-year-old coming through the door, or to my wife, or we just got a puppy. but it's all about doing it in the most loving way.
Mm.
I think if you look at a child, you look at a wide-eyed child who hasn't been hurt yet, and what they wished were true, or what you wished were true when you were a child, what you hoped was true, what you hoped the world was. What near-death experiences conveyed to me is it really is that way. What you hoped was true, what you wished was true, it really is. That's the deepest truth of the universe. And something in us remembers that. Something in us knows that. And for me, it has helped me. It's helped me. It's helped me to remember. It helps me to remember.
So to sum it all up, it's remembering who you are really
right.
and where you came from, and that you're going back.
Yes,
or possibly
we're
left.
going back to where we came from, and we know that.
And we're all one with everyone else.
Yeah.
Everything else, even the trees. I was on this last weekend. I was on a 300-mile trip, and I got lost because I got into how the trees were loving me and the grass was loving me.
Does that happen to you a lot?
Further than I had to go before I realized it. So be prepared to get lost more because you really are finding the real thing.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's been such a delight speaking with you, and I really can't recommend your book highly enough. Again, it's called The Gifts of Near-Death Experiences. You don't have to die to experience your true home. It really is truly within our grasp. So your website again is Linn
You go ahead.
LinnMinistries.org, yeah?
Yes.
Right. Great. Right. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.
Wonderful interview.
Many blessings. And do visit our website, ncreview.com, and do join us next week. In the meantime, have a blessed week. Much love. Goodbye.